It started with farmers. In 1988, many of Uganda's farmers were women widowed by the civil war and struggling to feed their families after their livestock had been killed. 10 women in the district of Mukono built sheds to keep cows, but they had no cows. Meanwhile, in the UK, a group of farmers from Bath were wondering if their dairy cows might be a solution.
The idea was, rather than send milk powder, was to send a cow that would give the milk that would help and change the nutrition and the health of a family. What we didn't really realise and understand, and we should have if you look back at it, was that cow would generate income, which would generate better housing, it would generate education for the children.
They took action, and the story began. Training programs were developed with successful farmers sharing their experience with their neighbors. And as the work expanded, the training evolved to include nutrition, gender equality, and enterprise. Today, we've worked with over 2 million people, but this is just the beginning of the story. Are you ready to join us for the next chapter?
Hello viewers, my name is Pamela Ebanyat. I'm the Country Director of Ripple Effect Uganda, and I'm here to take you through the journey of Ripple Effect Uganda. Just to take you on a brief background, Ripple Effect was formerly called Sendakau Uganda, and which started way back in 1988 and was started through the late Archbishop Mpalanyi Nkoyoyo, who was passionate about the poverty in the communities and also the poor nutrition that he saw the communities were going through. So when he visited the UK, he visited some farmers who were quite concerned, and they decided, yes, can we send cows to Uganda, to the Ugandan communities? And indeed, cows were being flown over and brought to Uganda. And that is how the name Sendakau started. And way through the decades, we have indeed been supporting communities with cows. But there are several lessons that we have learned with our name Sendakau, but also with our activity in the communities. We are now changing the name, and the name is changing from Sendakau previously to Ripple Effect Uganda. And of course, one would ask, why Ripple Effect? When you look through the Sendakau principles, one of the biggest principles we had for Sendakau was passing on the gift. And indeed, when we would support our communities with in-calf cows, the heifers that would be delivered would be passed on to the next family. And even that next family would be given a mandate to pass on to the next family. And therefore, that principle has stuck. And it's, we thought that we have an impact on a family, and the family passes it on to the next. And meaning that even with our work as Sendakau, we would reach one family, but that family would reach 3 others through our support and support of the funders. So that is how we came to the name Ripple. Just like when you look at an impact in the water and the ripples go on, we believe that the good agriculture practices, the heifer, the good relationship in families are passed on to the neighbors. And because of that, we decided to rebrand and give the name of the organization more meaning, because when we'd go to the communities, whoever would look at Send a Cow, the next thing would be give me a cow. And yet actually we would do beyond that. So now with Ripple Effect Uganda, we have a vision of a confident, thriving, and sustainable rural Uganda. That is what we'd like to see. And with our mission, we'd like to inspire and equip Ugandan communities, transform their lives, and protect the planet. It is very key for us. And of course, when you look at our mission and our vision, we are fitting into the National Development Plan for Uganda, which has agriculture as its priority. And we see that, of course, there is a lot that has influenced our agriculture. We know that agriculture is the backbone of Uganda, and about 80% of our communities are involved in agriculture. But through our new strategy, we have actually a 10-year strategy, 2020-2030. We are going to focus on 5 objectives, and one of them is we'd like to see that our communities have safe and nutritious foods, because we still have communities that are going through hardships, and many of them are not able to access safe and nutritious foods. So our strategy is going to look at that. We also want to ensure that our communities can be able to earn above the poverty line. If we look at our communities currently, how much are they getting into their hands? Are they able to sell whatever little that they have and earn monies that can cater for their basic needs? When we looked at that, we thought that they are improved practices that we can share with the vulnerable communities so that they are able to have more money into their hands, so to improve the incomes of our communities. We are also going to look at, thirdly, the climatic effects, addressing climatic effects. Of course, we can't do that alone as a ripple effect, but in collaboration with partners and the government as well, would like to see what are those aspects, what are those activities that we are going to do that will combat or mitigate climatic effects. And all of us are experiencing that right now. You've seen the erratic rains that we are having. December, largely December, and end of 2022, there was a lot of rain in our communities. And of course, it should have been a harvesting season, but unfortunately, the rains are becoming unpredictable. So as an organization, as Ripple Effect, we believe that we will join hands with other partners to ensure that we can mitigate those climatic effects. But also, it's important that in those communities where we work, we don't want to just go and give handouts, maybe empower them, maybe train them, but we want to improve the relationships in those households where we are working. Now, one of the models that we'll be using is gender and social inclusion. When we talk about inclusion, we are looking at some of the particular individuals that have been left behind. We know that our SDG goals talk about leaving no one behind. Many of the people with disability have been left behind in households. We've worked with households, new households, where you find a person with disability is not given an opportunity to decide, is tied behind the household. Some of them lock them up in rooms because they feel this is somebody who is not adding to the family. So, but as an organization, we feel those are people who should be included. We need to include the youth. We need to include the refugees. So that's why we are talking about inclusion. At the household level, we want to improve relationships. The relationships are now, when you provide, train a household, you train maybe the woman whom we basically target at the household level. but we want to ensure that the entire household is aware of the kind of work that we are doing. So through our transformative household methodology, we do take communities and households through understanding the roles and responsibilities of the different people within the household. And therefore, we are very sure that when we provide maybe training at community level, the man, the woman, the children, whoever is in the household is able to play their role and responsibilities, and therefore the households would be better, meaning that they would have improved incomes, they would have improved agriculture practices, they would have improved meals, more than one meal a day. That is one of the aspects we are looking at. And fifthly, would look at partnerships. It's very key for us to work with partners. We've realized that usually there's a lot of duplication when you get into the communities. You'll find fellow NGOs are all looking at the same household. You find other institutions are looking at the same household. But can we sit as a community? Can we sit in collaboration with the district and be organized and coordinated, such that when Ripple Effect gets into the community and finds a financial institution that is available, we leverage on that and link our communities to that. If we find another institution that is promoting, maybe doing value addition, doing marketing, can we connect our communities, our households to those particular activities that are there? So we are looking at partnerships, very key. But we also know that in our strategy, one of the things we are promoting is we want to expand the areas where we are going to work. We'll look at working beyond the current areas in the north, in the east, and southwestern. To go to Bukedi area and a little bit about the southwestern areas where we are going to work. But some of those areas, if it is not through the partnerships, we are not able to do that. And also partnerships with funders and donors. We want to increase our pockets, the funding that we are using to be able to reach out to many more people in the communities. Our 10-year strategy, 2020-2030, we would like to reach out to 800,000 people. So we cannot do that as an organization without funding from different funders that are there, working in collaboration with the district, with the local government, with the government, because government also has very interesting programs that, for instance, the agriculture support program that is there, and our communities have benefited, they've leveraged from some of that. For instance, if you go to OWC where you have seedlings that are being provided, there is no need for Ripple Effect again to go into those communities and provide the same seedlings that OWC is providing. Operation Wealth Creation. So we leverage. We would link our communities and say, look here, if you want improved seed, if you want more trees in your communities, please reach out to the district and you are able to get that. So the partnerships, we would like to strengthen that, because we believe that the more partners we have, the more people we are going to reach. There's some of the funding that we receive, but we would like to work with partners, hand in hand with partners, and get as many people benefiting as possible. So our activities are mainly centered around our thematic areas. And we have basically 3 thematic areas. One is centered around sustainable agriculture. We believe that the kind of agriculture that we'll promote in the communities would be sustainable, right from the good agriculture practice that we provide, and then ensuring that that good agriculture practice is being promoted being given to other neighbors within the communities as well. Then secondly, we would like to use activities through our gender and social inclusion. And I've already earlier explained about relationships at households. Then thirdly, we would also look at enterprise development. And we believe that that is where we are going to catch the youth as much as possible. We know that our statistics as of now in Uganda, we have about 78 of our youth that are employed. So many youth are being channeled out of education institutions and they don't have what to do. But as an organization, as Ripple Effect, would like to contribute to that effort with support of funders. And I'm happy to say that one of the funders targeting youth employment is MasterCard Foundation, and Ripple Effect is going to benefit from funding from that. We have achieved a lot in our 34 years of work in Uganda. And I think I'll basically base at the recent statistics of 2021-2022 annual report, which indicates that now about 61% of the communities that we target have improved their hunger months. They've reduced, the hunger months. Many of them would have 3 to 4 hunger months, and now they have reduced. Why? Because they have multiple sources of income or livelihoods. They do not depend on agriculture alone. They are able to say that they have one or more livelihood activities that they do in their communities. Many of our communities are able to have safe and nutritious foods. At least we saw about 80% of the communities able to have access to safe and nutritious foods. About 60% of our communities were witnessing good relationships at the household level. And for us, we believe that that is progress, because what happens is that sometimes when we introduce improved agriculture practices, cultures water it down. You find that the culture will have more of the women being involved and less of the men. So we believe that these achievements that we've had, even with our new strategy, it's going to be better. However, the challenges still continue as an organization. As an NGO, at the moment, funding is not simple. We believe that the reflections that we have indicate that, most of our funders were hit by the COVID-19 that happened. And some of our funders, like the foundations from the UK and maybe even within, some of the funders within have reduced their, the buckets that they give to us. So that is a big challenge. But I'm very sure that once our strategies are very clear and the partnerships that are there, we are going to be able to access more and more funding. The partnerships, I believe, are going to be very supportive to help us combat some of the challenges that are there. We have a lot of youth that are unemployed. And as an organization, single-handedly, we cannot be able to do that. Would like to hold hands with as many as possible. How do we help our youth? Because they are the future of the country. We would need to ensure that we hold hands to ensure that they can even employ themselves, not necessarily looking at employers, but how can they be able to do that on their own? So as a way forward, we are rebranding, of course. We would like people to understand that we are changing our name from Sendakau previously to Ripple Effect, so that we'll let the public understand that we create an impact. When we go into the communities, we support, possibly I might say, about not even 3/4 of a village. It could be 1/4 of the village. Create that impact, and we ensure that the ripple continues. Our 10-year strategy is going to be very key to help us achieve and reach out to the 800,000 people that we hope by 2030 we'll be able to reach. And we believe that our work through our strategy is also going to contribute to the National Development Plan 3 for Uganda, and also contribute to the SDG that is there. My appeal to stakeholders, basically the fellow NGOs, let's work hand in hand. Let's cooperate. Let's ensure that we don't duplicate, but ensure that when we find someone already doing something, we can be able to add onto what's there. Of course, originally as Sendakau, we were basically looking at households and looking at the vulnerable households. But now as Ripple Effect, and looking at our strategy, but looking at also the national focus, we are going to focus more on the youth, because originally we were not reaching out to the youth, and we'll ensure that we can be able to provide options of employment, and not necessarily the white-collar jobs, but we are able to ensure that we build their capacity to be creative, to be innovative, and that they are able to reach more. We are going to reach out more to the refugees. Originally, we were not working with the refugees, we were working with the normal communities, but we've realized that Uganda has 1.4 million refugees, and it should be having one of the highest number of refugees. And these influence the communities that we work in, basically in the north, but also southwestern districts. So as Ripple Effect, we believe that we would like the host communities of refugees to appreciate how they support the refugees. So that is one of the things that we are going to embrace in our our new strategy and also to reflect on the name of Ripple Effect. And as I close, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the different stakeholders. Thank you, UBC, for giving us this opportunity to air out our journey. It has been an interesting journey to where we are now as Ripple Effect Uganda, and we believe that it is still going to continue. Thank you to our funders that have continually funded us. We believe that we are still going to work together. Thank you to Uganda, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the district local governments that have supported our work, and we have worked together as partners. Thank you to the communities that have made our work easy, but have also responded to the various activities and aims that we've had as an organization to support them to have better livelihoods. However, one important thing before I end is a slight reflection on the way we used to work as Sendakau. You know, we would provide cows in the communities, but those were in-calf cows. And as explained earlier, looking at passing on the gift principle, the cows would then be, when they calve down, the heifer is passed on to the next person within a group that has been formed as a result of the training of Sendakau. A few challenges were realized that there was a bit of dependency. Of course, our community structures had livestock extension workers who would always reach out to those families that have benefited with the cows and support them and provide the treatment that they need for the cows. But as time went on, as we rolled out of those communities were finding it quite a challenge to reach out to veterinary services. And some of those veterinary services, for instance, like the artificial insemination wouldn't come in on time, and meaning that the breed of the animals that we provided in the communities would eventually get diluted back to the local breed. So and the other thing was the reach was quite minimal. Of course, cows, in-calf cows are quite expensive. And a calf, one cow alone, which was in-calf then, was costing about 2.5 million Uganda shillings. And if you look at that, how much would you need to buy? Maybe 10. That's already 25 million shillings. So we would buy a few in-calf animals. And because of that, you would find that would reach out to few families. But the passing on the gift principle, because sometimes the calves that were carved down would be bulls. So you're not able to pass that on. And the communities did not understand very well how to reach out to their neighbors. But also somewhere where we learned lessons was we encouraged them that, can you at least try to reach out to your neighbor by giving them some of the milk that you had? And that is something that they came up with. One household would be able to reach out to the next vulnerable household, about 3 to 5 households, and give them milk. And that was very positive for us. The lessons learned were, I think some of the animals were stolen, others were hurt because they would sleep outside in, those the houses that were out. They would sleep out, and some of the people would end up hurting the animals because they did not get what the other family had got. So those were lessons for us. And therefore, the emphasis on the ripple, on the passing on, helped us to emphasize on the ripple. That's why we have the name, the ripple effect. Having impact on one family and passing on the gift to the next family. So we believe that as we will continue with our new strategy, ripple effect is going to reach out to as many as possible. For our contact, if you'd like to reach out to us, our offices are in Ntinda, and you can also reach out to us through www.rippleeffect.org, and we can be able to respond to some of the queries that you have. Thank you very much. For God and my country.